I entered the private hotel hall disguised as a waiter, and one scene changed everything. It started with something small. They always say it's the little things that give it away, and I used to think that was just something people said to comfort themselves after the fact. But now I know better. I can pinpoint the exact moment everything shifted, when the air in the room changed, thickened, though neither of us acknowledged it. At least not out loud. It was a Tuesday morning, nothing special about it. I was sitting at the kitchen table, half awake, nursing a mug of black coffee while scrolling through the news on my phone. Emily was across from me, quietly eating her yogurt and granola like she always did, flipping through something on her screen. Everything about the scene screamed normal, comfortable, familiar, safe. Then her phone lit up. It was just a blip in my peripheral vision. I hadn't been trying to see it. But sometimes your eyes catch things your brain hasn't even decided to look for yet. The notification hovered there for maybe 2 seconds. It was a text message preview, one of those automatic ones that shows you a photo thumbnail, and that's all it took. That's all I needed to see. Emily, at a bar, with a man standing next to her. She was smiling, kind of the way she used to smile in college, carefree, a little wild. Her eyes were lit in a way I hadn't seen in a while. The man beside her wasn't doing anything dramatic. He wasn't kissing her, wasn't whispering into her ear, but his hand was on her waist, not hovering, not grazing, planted, firm, possessive. There was a familiarity in the way his fingers rested against the fabric of her dress. Like this wasn't the first time. Like he knew exactly how to hold her, how to touch her without thinking about it. And maybe that's what hit me the hardest. It wasn't the picture, it was how natural it looked. How easy it seemed for her to be in that moment. Then, just like that, she flipped her phone over, face down. Not a glance, not a single flicker of surprise or concern. No, she did it like she'd practiced it. Smooth, seamless. And before I could say anything, before I could even process what I'd just seen, she looked up and smiled at me. "You think we should try that new recipe tonight?" she asked, gesturing toward a folded-up magazine page with a sticky note on it. I stared at her. She kept her voice light, as if nothing had happened, as if I hadn't just seen her in someone else's arms. Her expression was warm, practiced. Not a single bead of sweat, not a single blink too fast. But it was too polished, too clean, like someone performing a role. And I realized in that instant, she wasn't just acting normal. She was acting. I didn't answer right away. My heart was thudding, but not loud enough for her to hear. At least I hoped not. I played along. I gave her some half-assed reply about how we already had chicken defrosting in the fridge, and that maybe we could do pasta tomorrow instead. My voice didn't crack. I didn't stutter. I don't even know how I managed to keep my hands from shaking. But inside I was spiraling. My mind was already trying to slow down the moment, replaying it in a mental loop, dissecting every second. Who took the photo? Who sent it? Was it meant for her, or was it sent to her by someone trying to be discreet? Did she know the picture had come in just now? Had she forgotten to turn off previews? Was this a mistake or a moment of carelessness? That was the first time I felt it. Not suspicion, not anger, just distance. Like something had opened up between us that I didn't know how to cross. We were sitting at the same table, drinking from the same coffee pot, surrounded by the quiet comfort of our home, but she felt suddenly unreachable. And the worst part? She made it easy to ignore. Too easy. She kept the conversation moving with that same calm, almost boring rhythm she used every other day. She asked if I'd remembered to reschedule the pest control appointment. She reminded me to pick up dog food. She mentioned that the HOA was cracking down on trash cans being left out too long. That, more than anything, made me uneasy. Because that's how you bury a moment, you smother it in normalcy. You overcorrect. You bury the scent of smoke before someone asks about the fire. I watched her stand up from the table, rinse her bowl, and leave her phone face down on the counter while she went upstairs to finish getting ready. The screen stayed dark. Not another buzz, not another alert. Just that slick black void of silence. I thought about picking it up. I really did. The old me, the before me, would never have considered it. Emily and I didn't do that. We trusted each other. That was always our thing. We never checked each other's phones, didn't need passwords, didn't snoop. But now I was sitting there like a man who'd just seen a ghost. A ghost of something that used to be alive, our trust. Still, I didn't move. I told myself it could have been innocent. Maybe the guy was a coworker. Maybe it was a group photo and I'd only seen part of it. Maybe she was tipsy, maybe he was just being supportive. I stacked excuses like sandbags against a rising tide of doubt. But I wasn't blind. It wasn't just the picture. It was the way she brushed it aside like it was nothing. No explanation. No comment. No attempt to casually say, "Oh, that was from last night." Mike from work sent a funny pic. Just a flip of the phone and a pivot into small talk. Like she knew better than to say anything. Or maybe she knew I knew better than to ask. I watched her walk back down 10 minutes later, dressed for work, a little more makeup than usual, a sharper perfume than the one she usually wore to the office. She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, more habit than affection, and grabbed her keys. "I've got back-to-back meetings, but I'll try to text if it runs late," she said. I just nodded. She walked out the door with the same ease she always did. And I sat there long after she'd gone, alone with my half-empty coffee cup and 1,000 pounding thoughts. That morning was the first time I saw the edge of the thread. I didn't pull it. Not yet. But I knew it was there now. That morning never really ended. Not for me. Even as the day went on and everything around me tried to move forward, emails, meetings, traffic, idle conversations, I stayed stuck at the kitchen table in my mind, watching that photo light up Emily's phone over and over again. I tried to work, but I couldn't focus. I tried to listen, but the voices sounded far away. That image, the hand, the way she turned the phone over without a second glance, the way her voice didn't tremble, played on a loop, like some glitch in my memory that wouldn't fix itself. By the time she came home that night, something in me had shifted. Something I couldn't unshift. She was later than usual. Her text came in just before 9. Running behind, presentation went long. There was a little winking emoji at the end, like it was a joke, like I wasn't home alone. Again, eating microwaved leftovers and wondering if my wife was really where she said she was. She came through the door a little after 11. Hair a little messy, makeup faded, her shoes in one hand, her voice full of exhaustion as she gave me a quick peck on the forehead and made some comment about how brutal her day had been. I just nodded, said, "You okay?" "Just tired," she said, loosening her earrings, walking past me like I was a lamp. "Gonna shower and crash." The first time she said that, "gonna shower and crash," it meant she'd climb into bed with me. Now it meant she'd be asleep before I could even think of asking how her day really went. And I didn't ask, because I didn't want her to lie to me again. That was when I started noticing the pattern. I don't know when exactly it became a routine. Maybe that night. Maybe the one after. All I know is it kept happening. Her coming home late. Her avoiding specifics. Her phone always face down. Always locked. The passcode wasn't even the same anymore. One day I tried our old shared code to check the weather while she was in the shower, and it was wrong. She changed it. No explanation. No heads up. I didn't say anything. I let it go. Like an idiot. Like someone who didn't want to know the answer. But deep down I was starting to keep score. Little things. Harmless things at first glance. But stacked up, they started to form a shape. She used to leave her laptop open on the couch, sometimes even in the middle of an email. Now she closed it religiously. Not just closed, snapped shut like a reflex the second I walked in. One time, I came home early from a run and called her name from the hallway. She didn't hear me right away. I stepped into the office, and she jumped like I'd caught her stealing. The laptop slammed shut. Her smile came a second too late. "Just checking something for work," she said. Ah, her scent changed, too. That's what finally made me start writing it all down. Emily had always worn this subtle lavender perfume. The kind that lingered on our pillows the next morning, soft and warm. But sometime in April, she switched to something bolder. Something sharper. The kind of scent that turned heads. One night, after she got home from drinks with a client. I hugged her just long enough to realize the fragrance on her wasn't hers. It was cologne. Faint. But there. That's the night I started the notebook. I didn't want to feel crazy. I didn't want to be crazy. So I started keeping track of everything, just to make sure I wasn't imagining it all. A log. Nothing dramatic. Just notes in a small black journal I hid in the back of my desk drawer. The time she left. When she got home. What she said. How she looked. What she wore. Any changes. Any weird energy. The entries piled up. April 12th. Said she had a client dinner. Came home at 11:45. Lipstick gone. Smelled like cologne. Didn't kiss me goodnight. April 18th. Late again. Happy hour with team. New necklace I've never seen before. Said it was from Kate. Kate lives in Denver. April 23rd. Found her in the guest room on her phone at 2 a.m. Said she couldn't sleep. Jumped when I walked in. April 27th. Locked phone. Again. I told myself it could all still be innocent. Work stress. Personal space. Just a phase. But I knew better. You don't start hiding things in phases. You don't start rewriting routines without a reason. I became a ghost in my own house. I'd listen to her footsteps like a detective. I'd replay conversations in my head after she went to bed. I'd start to notice all the questions she didn't answer. I'd catch her changing subjects mid-sentence, or giving vague one-word responses. Who was there? Just the team. Which team? You know, just people. No names. Never any names. She didn't even talk about work the same way anymore. She used to vent to me about meetings, office politics, the coworker who always stole snacks from the break room. That all stopped. Suddenly, she was vague, distant, like she was protecting something, or someone. And every time I got close to bringing it up, she'd distract me. With sweetness. With S**X. With silence. She knew how to keep me off balance. She knew me that well. That's what broke my heart more than anything. How SK* led she'd become at managing me. At steering the conversation just far enough away from the edge that I wouldn't tip it over. And the worst part? I let her. Because I still loved her. Because I didn't want the truth. I just wanted the life we had to be real again. I started fantasizing about catching her. Isn't that messed up? Not because I wanted the pain, but because at least it would be real. Concrete. I needed something I could point to and say, see? I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't overthinking. I was right. I stopped sleeping well. I'd lie next to her at night while she snored softly, peacefully, like her conscience was clear. And I'd stare at the ceiling, wondering who else had seen her laugh that day. Who else had touched her? Who else had become her secret? One night, she left her work bag on the kitchen chair while she showered. I stared at it like it was a bomb. My hands were sweating. My heart was racing. I didn't touch it. I just sat there and stared, afraid of what I might find if I looked inside, afraid of what it would mean. The suspense was K*ling me, but the not knowing was keeping me sane. That's how warped things had become. Eventually, I started reading between the lines of everything she said. Not just the words, but the tone, the rhythm, the timing. Pause became a clue. A laugh became a P*N. A smile became a mask. And one night, while she was asleep, I whispered the same sentence into the dark room 4 times just to hear how it sounded. I think you're cheating on me. She didn't stir. The next morning, I kissed her on the forehead and made her coffee like I always did. But the version of me who did that wasn't the same man from before. That man had started building a case. Not to accuse, but to survive. I wasn't looking for a smoking G*N that night. I really wasn't. It was almost accidental. That's the part that still messes with me. I hadn't gone digging with any grand plan or dramatic moment in mind. I was just trying to find an old lease agreement. Something buried in the drawer of forgotten electronics and half-dead chargers. I pulled open the middle cabinet in the hallway. The one we always said we'd clean out and never did. That's when I found it. Emily's old tablet. It was wedged beneath a stack of unopened mail and a tangled mess of cords we hadn't touched since we moved in. I almost set it aside, but something made me press the power button. The screen flickered, dim at first, then brightened. No passcode, no fingerprint, just a slow boot-up screen that felt like it was holding its breath. I didn't expect anything. It had been gathering dust for over a year. But then the notifications started popping up. Dozens of them. Email previews, calendar reminders, cloud sync alerts. Turns out Emily never disconnected it from her primary accounts. It had been asleep, not dead. And now it was wide awake, revealing every message, every photo, every confirmation she thought was buried in her pocket. I stared at the screen like it had grown teeth. And then I saw the name. Mark. I almost dropped the tablet. Mark. The same guy she'd mentioned offhand once or twice. Always in a neutral tone, like he was just another name in the office crowd. I remembered one dinner where she'd said something like, "Oh, Mark's leading the new vendor rollout. Poor guy looks like he hasn't slept in a week." I'd nodded, maybe even joked that he needed a vacation. That was it. Just a name. A background character in her day-to-day stories. Until now. Because Mark was everywhere. Inbox, outbox, attachments, threads. At first, it was innocent work reports, forwarded PDFs, meeting recaps. But then the messages started to shift. The tone changed. Shorter sentences. More emojis. Inside jokes. And then the photos. Not just one. Not just the one from the bar that morning weeks ago. There were pictures from hotel rooms. Selfies in bathrobes. A mirror *T with her holding up a bottle of champagne. His hand visible in the background, blurred but unmistakable. I froze when I saw that one, because I recognized the watch. I'd seen it on the guy in the photo notification. Same wrist, same watch, same hand. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was confirmation, and it kept coming. Emails planning weekend conferences. Reservations. Car rentals. He'd write things like, "Can't wait to see you again." And she'd reply with things like, "Wish you were here already?" And "Last night's still in my head." Some of the threads went back 6 months. 6 months. Half a year of deception hidden in plain sight, while she kissed me goodnight and asked if I wanted chicken or salmon for dinner. I felt sick. I don't remember sitting down, but at some point I was on the floor, knees bent, tablet in my lap, just scrolling. My thumb moved, but my mind didn't. I wasn't even reading anymore. I was absorbing, memorizing, letting it carve a permanent wound into my brain so I'd never forget how it felt. Some of the messages were time-stamped on nights she came home exhausted. Nights I rubbed her feet while she told me how hard work had been. One message stood out, dated the night of our anniversary. I hadn't even realized she'd texted during dinner. But there it was. "Mark, I wish I were with you right now. This dinner is dragging and I keep picturing your hands on me." Counting the days. I had taken her to a rooftop restaurant, ordered the wine she loved, wore the shirt she'd picked out for me. She was texting him under the table. That was the moment I stopped wondering. Not just about the cheating I already knew, but about myself. Because up until then, I was still half blaming me. Maybe I hadn't been attentive enough. Maybe I'd let the romance fade. Maybe I worked too much. Maybe she had reasons. But reading those messages, reading how easily she wove lies through our life, I realized this wasn't about me lacking something. This was about her hiding something. Loving someone else while pretending to love me. And she was good at it. I'll give her that. So I took a breath. Then another. Then I stood up. And I got to work. I connected the tablet to my laptop. Transferred everything, every message, every photo, every attachment. Created folders. Labeled them by date. Exported PDFs. Backed it all up to an external drive I labeled taxes in case she ever found it. I uploaded a copy to a private cloud. Password protected everything. This wasn't anger. Not yet. It was clarity. I wasn't going to confront her. Not now, not like this. I'd seen enough stories, heard enough podcasts, watched enough friends go through messy breakups where emotions exploded and nothing got resolved. No, I wasn't going to give her a scene. I was going to give her silence. But first, I needed to be safe. I checked our joint accounts. quietly moved half of the savings to a new one in my name. I wasn't hiding money, I just wasn't about to be blindsided. I changed the password on my email, set up two-factor authentication on everything, froze my credit just in case, secured the deed to the house, made copies of our marriage license, tax returns, insurance documents. She wouldn't know I'd done any of it. I even checked the security cams, the ones I'd installed a year ago for porch pirates. Turns out they caught more than mail theft. I pulled up one clip dated a few weeks back. Emily arriving home late, slipping out of a lift, adjusting her blouse in the reflection of the car window. Then she hesitated, looked up at the front door, smiled to herself, and walked in. I knew that smile. It wasn't meant for me. The next morning, she made me eggs, asked if I wanted toast, told me about her coworker's new puppy. I looked at her hands as she moved around the kitchen. Her wedding ring caught the morning light. I wondered if she even felt it on her finger anymore. She didn't notice the tablet was gone from the drawer. She didn't notice anything. But I noticed everything now. And what scared me most wasn't that she'd betrayed me. It was how easily I had let her. After the tablet, everything changed, but not in the way people might think. I didn't blow up. I didn't confront her that night or the next. I didn't shout or throw anything or ask, "How could you?" Like in those movie scenes where someone finds out their life is a lie. That part stayed quiet. Instead, I started moving in the shadows. My world didn't explode. It narrowed. And when I say collecting proof, I don't just mean saving files. I mean observing, recording, documenting everything like a detective who knows the K***ler is still living in the same house. And every morning I played my role. She was good at pretending, but I was getting better at watching. Each morning felt a little more unreal. I'd watch her sip her coffee like it didn't taste like betrayal. She'd talk about traffic or coworkers or weekend plans while tapping away on her phone. Her screen always tilted just slightly out of view. But I was done guessing. Now I was listening to everything. The key to understanding a lie isn't in the lie itself. It's in the repetition of it. The way it changes when told too often. The hesitation that grows when the story starts to decay. I started noting her patterns with precision. Not just what she said, but how she said it. I noticed she only ever mentioned Mark in the past tense now. "Oh, Mark used to work on that project. Mark said something funny about that once." Like she was trying to erase him from the present, which told me he was very much still in it. That same week, she mentioned a team-building retreat. Friday through Sunday. Remote lodge, 2 hours north, no plus ones. It wasn't even subtle. She told me with a straight face, while tying her sneakers for a morning run, as if I wasn't supposed to flinch. "I'll bring back one of those tacky mugs for you," she said, grinning. "You always like those." I smiled back, looking forward to it, and then I made a note, Mark plus Friday retreat. I didn't ask questions. She was expecting them. What I gave her instead was permission to keep digging her own hole. The moment she left for that trip, I activated a second layer of insurance. I'd already backed up the emails and photos from the tablet, but I went further. I created a cloud drive titled Car Warranty Info and uploaded everything into it. *TS, emails, calendar entries, text logs synced to her Google account. Password protected, hidden in plain sight. Then I shared access with my personal lawyer, a man I'd met once years ago after a minor car accident. He responded within an hour. "If you're ready to talk, I'm available." Not yet. I still wasn't done building the case. While she was away on her retreat, I checked her location history. Something I had never done before. Something that felt dirty even as I typed it into the browser. But again, I reminded myself, I didn't start this. I was just trying to catch up. According to Google Maps, she hadn't gone anywhere near the retreat lodge. Not even close. She was in the city, in a boutique hotel, a place with rooftop cocktails and valet parking. I looked up the hotel's reviews. "Perfect for romantic weekends," one of them said. "Luxurious, private, and discreet." Another mentioned the couple's massage packages. I didn't need to read further. I took a screenshot*t of her location ping and saved it. Dated. Time-stamped. Added to the folder. Still, I said nothing. When she came back Sunday night, she walked in with slightly sunburned cheeks and fake stories about canoeing and teamwork exercises. She even made a comment about one of her coworkers snoring too loudly. I smiled through all of it, nodding along like a fool. She handed me a mug. Cheap ceramic. Adventure awaits, in cursive font. I thanked her, held it like a trophy. It was the perfect metaphor for our marriage. Fake, mass-produced, fragile. That week, I started photographing things. Her leaving the house dressed for meetings. Her coming home with wine-stained lips. I set up a webcam in the garage. Motion-activated, silent, unnoticeable. If she came home with someone, I'd see it. If she left in someone else's car, I'd know. I checked our joint credit card statements. She hadn't been cautious. Room service charges, spa treatments, lift rides to places she'd never mentioned. She'd even used the card to book a dinner for two at a restaurant she once said was too romantic for us. I printed those receipts. They went in the folder, too. I kept thinking I'd hit a wall, that there would be a moment where the proof stopped, where maybe I'd misread something or overreached. But the deeper I went, the more it confirmed what I didn't want to believe. This wasn't a fling. It wasn't a one-night lapse. It wasn't confusion. It was a second life. One she had crafted deliberately, methodically, and I had been her cover story. Some nights, after she went to bed, I'd sit in the living room with the lights off and stare at nothing. I wasn't angry, not the kind that explodes. It was quieter than that, more hollow, like grief that hadn't found the words yet. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just existed, watching this life play out around me like a bad script, and all I could do was turn the pages. One night, as I sat on the porch with a blanket over my shoulders, she came outside and rubbed my arm. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "Just tired." "You've seemed kind of distant lately," she said. "Everything okay at work?" I looked at her then, really looked at her, at the concern in her eyes, and it hit me how effortlessly she could lie. Not just to me, but to herself. Like she believed the version of reality she was selling. "Yeah," I said again. "Just stretched a little thin. Nothing serious." She kissed my temple and told me to come inside before I caught a cold. I nodded and stayed outside. That night, I opened a new file on my computer. Not a folder. A document. It was a letter. Not a confession. Not a confrontation. A goodbye. Not for her. For me. I didn't want the last words I said to her to be shouted. I didn't want her to twist my pain into something she could walk away from feeling like a victim. I wanted my truth on paper. Measured, clear, undeniable. And I wanted her to read it after I was gone. By the end of that week, I had everything I needed. The evidence, the finances, the plan, the destination. There was a house upstate, one I'd inherited when my uncle passed, a lakeside fixer-upper with more silence than walls. I hadn't been there in years, but suddenly, it sounded like the only place I could breathe. I booked a one-way rental, paid cash. I waited for her to leave for work Friday morning. Then I packed. No suitcases. No drama. Just a duffel bag, a laptop, the file folder, and the letter. On the kitchen table, I placed her mug from the retreat. Next to it, my wedding ring. And the letter folded neatly beneath it. Then I stepped outside. I didn't look back. I wasn't planning to see her again. Not for a while. Maybe not ever. I thought I'd said everything I needed to say in that letter. I'd imagined her coming home, reading it, finding the ring. I imagined her standing in the kitchen, the silence echoing off the walls where our marriage used to live. I wanted her to feel the absence, not just of me, but of us. That was supposed to be the end. But then I got the invitation. Came in the mail about 2 weeks after I left. A white envelope, too polished to be junk, addressed to both of us. She must have forgotten to change the address with her company. Inside was a glossy card for some corporate awards banquet. Black tie, downtown, hosted by her firm. I almost tossed it in the trash. But then I saw the date. Friday, Same day she told me she was flying out for a conference in Denver. I stared at the card for a long time, flipping it between my fingers. My first instinct was to let it go. She'd made her choices. I'd made mine. What was the point? But something about it stuck in my throat. It wasn't just the lie, it was the boldness of it. Like she was so far gone she didn't even need to cover her tracks anymore. Like she believed I was out of the picture, irrelevant. And maybe I was, but I wasn't invisible. So I circled the date and made a plan. The week before the banquet, I called in a favor from a buddy I knew from college who worked events. Catering staff always needed help for big functions, especially in the city. One phone call, a little backstory, and I was in. Just another nameless guy in a black vest carrying flutes of champagne. The night of the event, I showed up early. I wasn't nervous. Not exactly. I think I had passed nervous weeks ago. What I felt was something colder, sharper, a need to see, not to catch her, not even to confront her, but to look the truth in the eye and know I hadn't imagined any of it. The banquet hall was a hotel ballroom dressed up to impress. Crystal chandeliers, jazz trio, linen tablecloths so white they practically glowed. I kept my head down as I moved through the space, tray in hand, eyes scanning the crowd like a soldier on recon. And then I saw her. It was surreal. She looked radiant, hair curled, black dress, heels that clicked softly as she walked. She was smiling, laughing, glancing around the room like she owned it. If someone had taken a photo of her right then, no one would guess she was a woman who'd blown up her marriage. And then I saw him, Mark, sitting beside her like he belonged there. His arm was draped along the back of her chair, not touching her, but close enough. Their bodies leaned inward, angled toward each other like magnets. They weren't hiding. In fact, it looked like they hadn't even considered hiding. They toasted with wine glasses, whispered things too low for anyone else to hear. She laughed. He touched her hand. And I felt nothing. No rage. No jealousy. Just a strange kind of stillness. Like watching a house burn down from far away, long after you'd moved out. I circled the room once, pretending to offer drinks, but really I just wanted to get closer. I stood near a column, pretending to adjust my tray, and studied them. Every laugh, every glance, every moment of closeness they thought no one else could see. This wasn't a secret fling anymore. This was the reveal. This was her stepping into a new identity, leaving behind everything she didn't think she needed anymore, including me. I thought I might want to walk over, say something, look her in the eye, but I didn't. What was there to say that I hadn't already written in that letter? Besides, she didn't even look like the woman I married. And maybe I didn't look like the man who married her. So I turned and walked away. But as I passed the edge of the room, someone grabbed a champagne flute from my tray, and I recognized the voice. "Thanks, man." It was Mark. He didn't recognize me. Not with the vest, the clean shave, the dim lighting. But I recognized the sound of his voice. It was weird, hearing it outside of a screen. After all the emails, the messages, the screensh *ts, he was real now. Not just a name on a thread. And standing that close to him, all I could think was, this guy? It wasn't even about looks. It was the energy. He wasn't charismatic. He wasn't sharp. He wasn't special. He was just convenient. The kind of guy who wouldn't question her stories, who wouldn't dig too deep, who would be thrilled to be chosen, even if it meant living in the shadows for a while. I didn't feel threatened by him. I felt embarrassed for both of us. I made one last sweep through the banquet hall before heading toward the service corridor. The other waiters barely noticed me. I clocked out early, changed into my street clothes, and slipped out through the back exit. The air outside was crisp, and I stood there for a while, watching the city hum around me. Horns, footsteps, distant music. Somewhere inside that building, my wife, no, Emily, was laughing with another man under fairy lights, sipping expensive wine like nothing had happened. And for the first time in a long time, I felt okay, because I had seen it with my own eyes. No more imagining, no more wondering, no more hoping that maybe I was wrong. She wasn't mine anymore, and I didn't want her to be. I walked a few blocks before calling a cab. The driver didn't say much. Neither did I. I sat in the back seat, watching the lights blur through the window. When I got back to the lake house, I didn't turn on the lights. Just stepped inside and stood in the dark, letting the silence settle around me. I was done. Not just with her. With the part of me that waited, that hoped, that held out for an apology or an explanation that would never come. The truth was right there, in a ballroom filled with strangers, in the way she smiled at someone else like I had never existed. And I didn't need her to see me, because I saw everything. I returned only to pack. No words, no confrontation. I left a letter and my wedding ring on the table, quiet symbols of closure. Emily never saw me leave. The house felt like a stage after the actors had gone. I drove north to the lake house, the one no one remembered we owned. Alone, surrounded by stillness, I felt something I hadn't in months. Control. It wasn't peace yet, but it was mine. Weeks later, her affair unraveled. Mark's wife found out and went public. Gossip spread fast. Emily's name became a whisper in the office. Her world cracked under the weight of exposure. But I was gone, repairing boats, breathing in silence. The betrayal that wrecked me in secret became her undoing in public. And for the first time, I didn't feel broken. I felt free.